Welcome to this edition of Living Well, making the most of your senior years. I'm Terry Troyer. On today's show, we're exploring our history and hearing how experience and knowledge lay the foundations of our present while building pathways to our future. Many of the world's changing technologies we see today can trace their roots to Aberdeen Proving Ground, right here in Harford County. Let's head over to the new Discovery Center at Water's Edge to connect the discoveries of the past with the technological advances that are shaping our world today.
The technology development here in Harford County has been incredible for the last 100 years, in large part due to Aberdeen Proving Ground. My name is Charlie Niedewitz, the board president of the Discovery Center at Water's Edge. We'd like to take you on a brief tour of what we have here at the Discovery Center. This is one of the real interesting exhibits we have here at the Discovery Center. This is a topographical sandbox where we can look at the contours of the land that surrounds us. We're at the top of the Chesapeake Bay. So the mountains, the rivers, how that feeds into Chesapeake Bay is critically important. So you can come here to the Discovery Center, create different topographical structures. In this case, we have a mountain right here. And then we can see what happens when it rains. And we do that by putting our hand over top of the topographical table, and we now have rain coming out. And what we see is that the rain is going into the Chesapeake Bay. So this is a very useful exhibit to talk about potentially how fertilizers and things can make its way to the Chesapeake Bay. Okay, one of the things we like to say here at the Discovery Center is that when you come to the Discovery Center, you're going to get a chance to see tomorrow's technology today, in large part because of the basic and applied research work that goes on at Aberdeen Proving Ground. And here's an example of that. Here we have a display which talks about a brand new material that was just developed, okay, from the Army Research Lab. It's called ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene. It starts out as a powder, it forms strands, and then it forms a solid surface. And that solid surface can be molded into a liner for a helmet, okay? That liner, when put inside this helmet, then becomes protection for the soldiers. And this protection is 4 times the capability of of the Kevlar that's used in previous helmets. And we have a sergeant here, fortunately, who is wearing this particular helmet. He's alive to this day. So this is an example of tomorrow's technology today that you'll see at the Discovery Center. And there's much more of this going on at Aberdeen Proving Ground. Okay, this is an exhibit that we have at the Discovery Center, which is an example of the value of the close proximity to Aberdeen Proving Ground, the research that's going on there, and being able to show stuff here at the Discovery Center. So this came to us from a researcher at the Chemical Biological Center of Aberdeen Proving Ground, where they had developed a virtual reality experience of what it's like to go inside of an ice cube and look at the molecular structure of the water molecule. This is an experience when you have the virtual reality glasses on. You're going to be able to shrink down and look inside of a ice cube at a water molecule, H2O. So now you can see we hit the shrink button, which you did with your virtual hand, and you're going to shrink yourself down. Look, see, it goes from, one point, then you're going to go smaller and smaller and smaller. You're going to get all the way down to the molecular level. Okay, so now you're shrinking yourself down, and just for perspective, in terms of how small you're going to get, here's a COVID virus. So now you got a COVID virus coming, okay? And that gives you a perspective, because look at the scale. It's like at 1 to 7 million. We're going deeper and smaller into the ice cube, where we can now begin to see the H2O. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen, right? So it's the hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. You're looking at the molecule. You're going to be able to take your virtual hand and actually grab a hold of that molecule. So there you are, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen, and now you're grabbing onto the H2O molecule. Notice that they're all not moving, but you're going to turn the heat up and look at the temperature, 27, 28, 29. As you reach 32, you're going to begin to see the structure change. And now you can see the molecules are beginning to go into motion because they're not frozen anymore. And with that heat, the molecules are now, in effect, turning into the water because it's not frozen anymore. So now the scale, as you're coming back out, now it's 1 to 300,000. You're backing yourself out, getting larger and larger and larger. And now, again, you're still getting larger. Scale 1 to 20,000. And when it comes out fully, you're going to be immersed in water, because that's what H2O is. Okay, so again, getting smaller. You're going to end up with, you got to put your boots on, you're going to have a puddle of water where before you had an ice cube and you looked at the molecules when they were frozen. Now you're looking at the water. And so this is an experience that is a virtual experience that came from the Chemical Biological Center, working with the Discovery Center to put this kiosk together. Okay, so you've just seen a sneak peek of the preview center of the Discovery Center at Water's Edge. We're excited to move into phase 2, which would happen shortly, but ultimately we're looking at phase 3, which is a 30,000 square foot world-class science center located right here on the banks of the Bush River.
My favorite thing to enjoy in Harford County, Maryland, the baseball.
The tradition.
The fine dining.
The craft beverages. The parks.
The trails.
The boating.
The history.
The landmarks.
The sports.
The scenery. The shopping. The farms.
The waterfront.
The events.
Harford County, Maryland. Something for everyone.
Documenting our history and experiences and learning from them is an important part of moving forward. Writing is one way to do that. Whether it's history, fiction, poetry, or memoirs, putting pen to paper is a way to capture a moment in time, so we can use that moment as a way to understand who we are as humans. Let's meet 2 writers who use their writing to reflect and expand our understanding of what it means to be who we are.
Hello, I am Joanne Galantino. I am a writer, an artist, and a teacher. When I am writing a story, whether it's a short story for young adults or whether it's a child's story, all of the wisdom I have gained, I somehow incorporate into whatever I'm working on. It's amazing how much life teaches you as you go. And as I've gotten older, I know one thing I try to do is not be a victim. I try to take care of myself, and I try to guide others to do the same so that they are, in turn, successful. I just like the idea of mainly communicating, sharing, strengthening, All of these things come together in a piece of writing. My advice to someone who thinks he or she has nothing valuable to say or nothing to say at all, I disagree. I encourage people to speak up all the time. I have this in my classroom. And it's important to give people the opportunity to speak and to be heard, and to know that even if your viewpoint is different than someone else's, that's okay. Let me read Stu Kangaroo. It's about a young kangaroo who realizes what he wants and is going to pursue it. When Stu Kangaroo was nearly age 2, he picked up a pencil and away he drew. When he'd go to the zoo, he'd draw lions and gnus. At the airport, he'd draw all the planes as they flew. But the big thrill for Stu, what he most liked to do, was to draw ladies' hats and gowns and shoes. His friends would say, "Stu, is that all you do? No boxing or jumping like true kangaroos?" "To myself I'm not true," stated poor Stu, "when I jump and play sports the way that you do." His friends said, "Ew, what's wrong with you? Drawing gowns and hats and bags and shoes." What could Stu do? He bid them adieu and walked to a shop on the avenue. Madame Kangaroo on the avenue had the finest of gowns and hats and shoes too. "Hello, Stu," said Madame Kangaroo. "Is there something that I can do for you?" "Hello," said Blue Stu. "What I'd just like to do is to draw in your shop, if that's all right with you." "Of course, please do," said Madame Kangaroo, "but I'm expecting a guest. She's coming at 2. "No problem," said Stu. "I'll stay out of view." So he pulled out his pen, and away he drew. Promptly at 2 came Lou Caribou, famous singer and dancer and actress too. "Madame Kangaroo," Lou Caribou cooed, "have you frocks in camel, eggshell, or ecru?" "I certainly do," said Madame Kangaroo. "Come and see these gowns in all of those hues." But Lou said, "No, none of these will do. I want something different, shocking and new." Madame Kangaroo hung her head, she was blue, and just as she did, she cried out, "Oh, Stu!" From the hand of Stu, the small pencil flew, so startled he was by Madame Kangaroo. "Oh, Ms. Caribou," Ms. Kangaroo cooed, "what about this style, drawn by young Mr. Stu?" Ms. Caribou swooned. "How shocking and new, and gorgeously different, does it come in a crew?" "Ecru," said Stu, "or black, white, or blue, it can be in whatever color you choose." Madame Kangaroo, along with young Stu, worked through the night for Ms. Caribou. And Lou Caribou, in her gown of ecru, caused a sensation, making worldwide news. And Ms. Caribou was so grateful to Stu, she sent him to Paris for fashion art school. Madame Kangaroo, also grateful to Stu, gave him space in her shop, and away those shops grew. Now Stu Kangaroo, a designing guru, dresses starlets and divas, and princesses too.
Hi, my name is Patrick Spicer. I'm a native of Harford County. I'm also an attorney, and I'm also a writer. And I'd like to share with you how my writing has been informed, the experiences I've had that have led me to create the writings that I've done. Some of the experiences that I've had that have really impacted and informed my writing are growing up in Harford County, and also growing up in college as a young adult. And those things have really inspired me to write either short stories, and currently I'm writing a novel about my experiences as a college student and later on in the 1970s. I absolutely love words. They have been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember. Ever since I was in grade school, I, if I may say, started to read when I was about 4 years old, and I just fell in love with reading. I've had conversations with people who say they don't have things to say, or they're not sure how to begin writing, or they're frankly intimidated by undertaking something in writing, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, mostly fiction. And my answer to the individuals that come forward with that kind of inquiry or question is just sit down and start writing something. The hardest part to this entire process is getting started. And if you write a paragraph, if you write 10 words, if you write a page, you're making progress. And you'll be surprised how it might build from there. I'd like to read to you a piece from a book, or really a short story, that I wrote a few years back called Spooz's Shack, A Story of Harford County. To me, it captured my feelings about Harford County, and I hope it does the same for you. Before anything else, there was the land. Rising up from the Susquehanna River, crisscrossed by 1,000 streams, creeks, and runs flowing inexorably to the Susquehanna or the Chesapeake Bay itself. The land rose, then undulated, maintaining a dynamic harmony with the flowing waters. Descending as it approached the myriad tributaries that flowed like veins through it, then ascending as it moved away from them. The land rolled gently, serenely, calming, beckoning those who came upon it. The marshy land along the littoral by the bay, nearly like a delta, verdant fields, thick, nearly impassable forests, craggy hills in the interior along Deer Creek, clear, fresh tributaries. All of these features define the land that had been loved by all of its denizens. First, the Indians, the fierce and towering Susquehannocks, then the English colonists, and ultimately Americans. The same land that the troops of Lafayette had seen on their march to Virginia. So intoxicated were they by the land, these French troops camped above the Deer Creek and Thomas Run valleys in a place called Indian Spring, promised each other that they would return there after the rebellion against Britain ended. The peripatetic French soldiers thought that their place of encampment was the most beautiful vista in America. Some of them did in fact return and lived out their lives in the land that would eventually be called Harford County. It was here in the 1960s that I grew up.
There are lots of ways to plan for our financial futures and ensure our quality of life. Saving and investing are two of them. A Maryland Able account gives people with disabilities the chance to save and invest funds in a tax-advantaged account without jeopardizing their federal or state means-tested benefits. Find out how Maryland Able can help you prepare for the future.
Every year in the United States, more than 1 million people are recuperating from total knee replacements. You might be one of them, like me. If so, you know that rehabilitation after surgery is an important and critical part of your recovery. Let's take a look at the steps you need to take to get that knee back in the game.
If you've recently had knee surgery or you're thinking about having knee surgery, congratulations. You've taken the first steps to improve your life by decreasing pain and improving your mobility. My name is Keisha Jennings Aiken. I'm an occupational therapist and the owner of the Right Turn Rehabilitation Services. Now let's talk about the first few steps of your recovery. Due to advances in technology or healthcare, most people go home within the first day of surgery. But don't worry, before you go home, the physical and occupational therapist, someone such as myself, will come in and work with you. We come in within the first few hours after recovery, and we make sure that you're safe getting in and out of bed. We make sure you're safe walking to and from your bathroom, and we make sure you can safely get on and off of a toilet. We also look at making sure you can dress yourself properly and that you're going to be safe to get in and out of your home. We also cover pain management, swelling, and any signs of infection so that you can notify your doctor. We will go over these things with you as well as the caregiver who will be helping you at home so that we can ensure that you have a safe discharge. So again, don't worry. Some of the exercises we will cover with you, or the physical therapist will cover with you, will include knee flexion, so being able to bend the knee, which is extremely difficult in the beginning. Knee extension, which is being able to straighten the knee. And the physical therapist's goal is to make sure that we're getting your knee moving so we can get you back on track. 7 to 10 days after your knee surgery, you will still have pain, but you will be more mobile and you will be more independent. That surgery will surely feel like it was worth it. Throughout this process, you may get frustrated, but just think the end result is that you're going to be more independent, you're going to be able to go to all of those social activities you've been missing, and you're going to have a better outlook on life. It may seem like it's a frustrating time, but you'll get through it. Just make sure you follow your doctor's orders, follow your therapist's orders when it comes to exercises, and follow all of those safety rules. You'll get through it, and you'll get that knee back in motion, and you'll have a better outlook on life.
With every step you take, every mile you pedal on your bike, or every lap you swim, you're not only helping your body, you're helping your brain. Let's catch up with Val Collins, who's reminding us that what's good for the heart is good for the brain.
Hi, Dr. Val Collins here, and welcome back to my friends. Those who haven't been here before, you are now among friends. And today we're going to talk about exercise, not just for our physical bodies, which we know is good for heart function, we know it's good for blood flow, we know it's good for our core and for our muscles, but we're going to make the connection with exercise and our mind, moving for our mind. Recent research has shown that our cognitive abilities increase with exercise, partly to do with the blood flow, partly to do with thinking and memory. So these are the types of exercises that can help. Anything that's aerobic, anything that gets you moving. It could be swimming, it could be bowling, it could be marching, it could be that dance class that you've been thinking about taking and you haven't quite gotten there. But I'm going to show you a couple of movements and just explain to you how this helps us. Let's just start out with a simple march. Just get ourselves moving. Notice also that there is a balance effect here, because at some point your foot on one side is up off the floor. So where does this cognitive part come from? Well, let's move forward and back. Now we're shifting in that balance effect. We're also moving more since we're changing the pattern. It's something to think about, and this assists us with memory. Let's take it a step further and come out and in and forward and back. A little bit more to think about, but if you do it enough times, you'll be able to connect all of these patterns together, and now our brain is really firing. How can we improve on this? Well, when you raise your hands, you lift your heart rate and you get that blood flowing up. So let's reach up a little bit. It doesn't have to be very high. The other option is to reach a little higher if you're ready for that. Notice that the beads of sweat will start forming, and you'll also feel your breath start to increase because your heart is working to push that blood up to the extremities. If you can't stand or you have any issues being up on your feet for a very long time, we have an alternative. We have the chair. And chair exercises are just as good as the exercises that you can do standing. So you can still move. Let's take a look at a couple of those movements. You want to sit toward the front of your chair, or at least to the middle, and find a comfortable spot. Once you're there, the same patterns we did standing, you can do in the chair. Start with the march. Move your arms. You'll notice my elbows are bent. I have running arms. I'm running in the chair. Who knew? So you could go forward and back. I'm changing the pattern again. My brain neurons and that interconnectivity is firing away. I can add to this pattern just like I did when I was standing, and I can come out and in, and I can raise the hands. I can raise them both at the same time. I can raise them with the legs. Something to think about. And I can also take it that higher step by lifting it in the air. Thank you for joining me today. Good job on the exercises. Remember, small, tiny steps can go a long way. I'll see you next time, and remember, keep moving for your mind.
Thanks for joining me on this edition of Living Well. Feel free to share some of your favorite activities, passions, and pursuits, and how you're making the most of your senior years. Until next time, I'm Terry Troyer.